Hello. Today we're going to be talking about some other philosophers that weren't mentioned in the first lecture about the Potter box. So when we're looking at our different cases, we can have more philosophers to fill out our repertoire, so to speak. So we can talk about different points of view that we haven't brought up yet. So remember the Potter box. The first thing you need to do in the Potter box is define the ethical situation. Second, what values apply in this case. Third, principles, you know, um, from different philosophers. And then finally, who are you loyal to? And then by running through those questions and thoughts, you systematically come up with an answer to your ethical problem. So let's talk about these philosophers. First, just add another Eastern philosopher as well as Lao Tzu. We have Confucius or Master Confucius or Lao Tzu, Confucius. You get the idea. Um, the whole idea behind Confucius is ritual, and it's known as Li. And basically, by doing certain proper things, that they become a habit, you become an ethical person. So if every day you get up in the morning and you make breakfast for your elders, well, that becomes a part of who you are. You are caring for the elders, so you become this ethical person. It becomes ingrained into who you are. And also with Confucius is this idea of Zen, and that is that you have concern for other people. You're not selfish, you're thinking outward, and between having these rituals and traditions that make you an ethical person, you're always thinking outward rather than inward. And that way you become an ethical person. Not that you practice ethics, it actually becomes part of who you are. I kind of like that. Socrates. You may have heard the Socratic method as it has to do with law schools. And the idea behind that is persistent, constant, rigorous questioning. And by going through that, you end up coming to what the truth is. Having taken a few law courses, they're difficult. They really are. Because the professor doesn't give you the answers. The professor just keeps questioning you, and when you make a remark, they'll question your remark. And one of the law classes I had, there were only two students in the class, another doctoral student and me. So you had to be prepared, and going through this questioning, you kind of went through the process of thinking, okay, why did I say that? Or is that really the answer? Is that really the truth? And as you continue on doing that, you eventually get to what you see as the ethical decision. So Plato, who fits with the whole Socrates and Aristotle group, I believe it goes Aristotle learned from Socrates learned from Aristotle, Plato learned from Socrates. So we finally get to Plato. And his is a theory of ideas, and that is we can't know true reality. We can only see its reflection. And this is best demonstrated in what he called the person in the cave. And the idea is we can only look, we're in this cave. We can only look forward, and there's a light behind us. Of course, in his day, it was a fire behind him, and we can only see the shadows that are on the wall. So we can see what's going on, and it seems to be reality, and we can see what has happened and what is going on. But is it truly what the truth is? Well, we can never see that. We can only see this projection of it. And this projection of it is pretty close to reality, but it's not true reality. And we can never know true reality. We can only know that reflection that we see on the cave wall. So let's say something happens, car crash, and you saw it. You was there, and you saw the two cars smash into each other. And when you're giving the police report, you tell what you saw. Well, another person who could have been standing right next to you could give well, not a completely different, but a very different report from what you gave. And what was the real truth? Well, we can't tell what the real truth is because all of us see reality or truth through our own filters, through our own lens. And we bring in our past, our feelings, our thoughts, what we value, what we don't value, experiences we have. And the person next to you, same thing. And yeah, they may have been next to you, but they still saw it from a slightly different angle. So all of this comes into play that, what was the reality? Well, even if we have it on a camera, it was recorded, we may not know what the true truth is. We can only see what the camera shows us. And as we've seen from a lot of, riots and looting and other video that we get off of cell phones, smartphones nowadays, yeah, you see something, but is that the true truth? What happened before? What happened after? The audio isn't all that good. What are we seeing? Yeah, that's what Plato's all about. We can't know that true truth. We can't know everything. We can't know true reality. We can only know its reflection. And knowing that, when we make our ethical decisions, we have to keep that in mind. It may not be the true truth, but it's pretty close. So, what best reflects that true reality? All right, De Montaigne, know thyself, and kind of gets into what I was mentioning with Plato, and that is you have to put aside your own biases, your own lies you tell yourself, your own vanity. Basically, you set aside your ego. And the only way to know if you're acting through your ego, what you present to the public, is by knowing yourself. Why do I do these things? Why do I act this way? If you put all that kind of stuff aside, now look at the ethical situation. Imagine, well, since this is 2020 and that's when this is being recorded, just recently a 17-year-old boy from, I'm going to say boy because he's an adult, from Illinois went up to Wisconsin with an AR-15 and shot 3 people, killed 2 of them, and paralyzed a third. And I have friends who are very strong conservatives, Trump all the way, and they say, he was protecting property, so that he had the right to be there. And then I have friends who are very much on the more liberal side, and basically just saw a white kid with an automatic weapon, arms in the air, walk right past the police, and the police not even noticing that, he was carrying a weapon, where the reason the riots were taking place was because a guy was going for a knife in a car, but he was black. So, you keep adding all these things, and, what biases did you bring in first? My friends on the right bring in this very conservative, the police are right, the protesters are wrong, self-deceit. Same thing with the people on the left. They bring in their bias of, these cops are out of control and they're targeting black people, and white people can do the same thing, but they're not held up to the same standard. Well, which side is true? Which side is that, like Plato said, the true reality? Well, as kind of a moderate type of person myself, is somewhere in between. It's a little bit of both. And if you cut through those biases, like De Montaigne has said, you may be able to see the truth or the right way to make the ethical situation. But you have to put that aside first. If you can't put that aside, you'll never make the correct ethical decision. All right. Milton and his self-righting principle. basically is how our Constitution has been written as far as the First Amendment is concerned. And that is, we believe in the free marketplace of ideas. We have freedom of the press, freedom of speech, and we let all the truth or lies out there. And either through debate and discussion, we figure out what the real truth is. But in Milton's theory, the truth is going to rise to the top. You can hear 20 lies and one truth. Yeah, the 20 lies are not going to sound right to you. It's the truth that's going to sound right. And people will see the truth and be able to separate the truth from the fiction. Be able to tell what is closer to, once again, Plato's true reality as opposed to the shadows on the wall. So this is how America is set up. We are very much against pre-publication censorship. In other words, stopping something from being printed before it's printed. Let it get out there, and then all of it out there. The good stuff, the bad stuff, and much like cream and milk, it's going to rise to the top, and we will know the truth. But in order to find that truth, everything has to be out there, weighed, brought before the people, and with the free marketplace of ideas, people are going to buy the truth. They're not going to buy the lies. Now, if you go back to De Montaigne there, and you still have that bias and self-deceit that you're not seeing anything except through your lens, the free marketplace of ideas doesn't work quite as well. So those two should have lunch and come up with another principle that we could all hitch our wagon to, so to speak. All right, Locke also, something that our founding fathers would have read, and his principle is the paradox of democracy. Under natural laws, values can be found through reason and the Bible. So what is natural law? Well, think about I think I'm thinking of the Declaration of Independence here. We find these truths to be self-evident. What does that mean? Well, through reason and thinking about it, this is the truth. It's self-evidence that we are all born with a need or desire for freedom, need and desire for safety. And by thinking about it and using reasons, we get down to this natural law of true rights. What are these rights are just manifest in themselves because we are human beings living together. And through reason, we can come up with that. And if we are ever in doubt, we always have the Bible. So you can turn to the Bible if there's holes that your reasoning can't figure out. So it kind of brings religion into it, but at the same time, there's still these self-evident truths that are to be true, and it's through reason. It's like all men are created equal. All men and women are created equal. Well, they are. Some of them may have a higher stance in society, so they have more opportunities, but that doesn't mean that someone who isn't born into high society can't become someone in high society. We all have value. We all have purpose. We all have worth. And that would be one of these natural laws. Whereas, only green-eyed people know the truth. That's not a natural law. That's just something someone made. Well, I just made it up right now. But if you ever have a question about, is this true? Is this not true? Turn to your Bible. Hume, sentimentalism. Hume, I think, would make a great journalist, and I know your first writing assignment is thinking about how these philosophers would be as journalists or members of the media. And I think he'd do a good job because he says to be skeptical. And I think we should all be skeptical at least a little bit, especially when you think about the free marketplace of ideas. We want to at least go, I don't know there. It's just buying things, wholesale because they have been given to us. The free marketplace of ideas doesn't work that way. So a little skepticism is good. And because you're a little bit skeptical, you should act on your impressions. So if your first impression is, there's something wrong with this, something hinky, something, a little out of sorts, go with that. And try to figure that out and think about it and reason about it. So don't place all your bets on something that just gives you an uncomfortable feeling. This is the philosopher who comes closest to trust your gut. So, all right, Voltaire, he was a satirist. In other words, he made fun and ridiculed things. And by doing that, it showed the opposite. I've been told I'm very sarcastic. And, I also am very involved in a church. And it was once asked to me, is, sarcasm a sin? It's like, well, sarcasm and satire is saying the opposite of what is true to point out what is true. And if you do that in a humorous way, I don't see that as a sin. But if you do it to hurt someone or to make them look bad in others' eyes, that's when we start getting into this concept of sin. But humor, I think you're okay with that. And this is where Voltaire is. He wasn't really out there to hurt people. But if you look at the opposite and ridicule it, you can start to see that, this is weird. So let's go back to our teenager with the AR-15. What would the satire be of it? Well, let's take the opposite. Let's instead of it being a teenage boy, let's make it an older person. Let's say a 60-year-old white woman with a stick, and would she have had that problem? Well, no, well, she would have gotten the same treatment. Go on through, you obviously aren't causing any harm here. So then you start looking at the opposite. It's like someone with a semi-automatic rifle, they might be up to no good. So you can see how using that satire and being ridiculous point out what could or possibly be true or more true, depending on, going back to Plato. So Kierkegaard, I think I put him in here just to say Kierkegaard. His first name is Soren, and he was an existentialist. I didn't even say that right, but existentialism, wow, you can teach a course just on Kierkegaard. So me being able to bring it up in a compound sentence is really watering it down. And a lot of the philosophers that I've presented, I'm taking their large works of thought and bringing it down to a very distilled set of principles so you can pop them into the Potter box on a 200 level class. So Kierkegaard here, follow your individual passions, go with what you believe, follow your feelings, but you should always be responsible. What does being responsible mean? Meaning that you don't hurt others, you do not take from others, but if you have a passion about truth, you follow it. You have a passion about justice, you follow that. If something doesn't feel right, you follow that. Kind of getting back to Hume here, but at the same time, you shouldn't just act wildly or act, with very little information. You should follow that passion and find more information while being responsible. So here are a few other philosophers that will be popping in from time to time in our course here, and I look forward to seeing your first homework assignments where you are processing cases through the Potter box, and now you have a whole bunch of philosophers to choose from. I'll be choosing most of them for you, but know that there's many ways to see the same reality, and knowing this will bring you into this situation where you do have to systematically think about an ethical situation. So embrace that, follow your passions, and try to be responsible out there. So thanks.